All right, everybody, got another video on the A6 today. So in this video, we're going to be redoing these custom headlights that I made. When I made them, I was a huge fan of them. I really like them. It's just that in the sunlight or at nighttime when there's not good lighting, or if the sun's hitting it like directly, it just looks like a black blob. It looks like I have like a really dark tint over the headlights. And some people are into that, some people are not. I personally hate headlight tint. I like the look of the inside of the headlight being blacked out with a clear lens. So we're gonna kind of keep that same theme, but we're gonna change it up a little bit. So for starters, it might be a little hard to see, this top bar here, the ring around the projector lens, and this little skinny bar that goes under the DRL tube, which is a little hard to see, but this is the DRL tube. This bar is gonna be silver, and this bar and the ring. All of that is gonna be silver, about the same color as my YouTube in there, DMC builds. So that's one thing we're doing. The other thing we're doing is this mess over here, minus the electrical tester. But this is a LED Demon Eye kit. I got this from Diode Dynamics. It was maybe, I don't know, 140 bucks, I think. All right, so the rain finally died down a bit. Had to put a little roof over my intake. But hopefully you guys can hear me now that it's not pouring. So we got the headlight connector right here, and we got the Demon Eye kit. So we got to put this into that connector to make everything work together. So, like I said, this kit was bought from Diode Dynamics, and the reason I went with them is because of the way they have this whole kit set up to work. So first of all, you have power and ground, which is very simple. Runs right into these connectors here that run to your LED drivers. And then from the drivers, they have these plugs that plug into the LED chips themselves. So what's nice is you have these two wires that come out of your drivers here. One of them is black, obviously that's ground. This one detects 12 volt power from your low beam bulb when it turns on and off. So when it detects power from that bulb, meaning your bulb is on, it actually turns off the LED on its own. Now what's nice about this is LED chips don't like excessive heat, and it's not good to keep the thing running constantly when your headlight's on because no one's gonna see it, and there's no point in burning out your LED chip and then having to take apart your entire headlight again to change it. So when that detects power from that bulb, it just immediately turns it off. No need for switches, no need for tapping it into a fuse box. And that's what really sold me for this kit. And then obviously here you have, your two ground and power wires that control the entire system. So for me, that was an easy purchase. Once I found out they had that stuff, I was sold. So the way we're tapping it in is this. So when you have the projector light off, this LED bar that runs around the bottom of the headlight here is on at 100% brightness. So I want my LED kit to be on when this is on. Now, when the headlight turns on, obviously these turn off, which is exactly what I wanted. So I can control whether they're on or off by hitting the switch inside the car, turn the headlight on and off, and I can also go through the car's radio and turn off this DRL tube, which will also turn off these lights. So I have to have no switches at all. I can tap everything right off this connector here. So we're gonna de-pin this connector, pull out the wires that we need to tap off of. That way I can solder the wires together and slip a piece of heat shrink over both of them, and I have like a nice safe seal, and then I'll put those pins back in. It's just the right way to do it. So I'll get that de-pinned and show you guys how I got them all together. All right, so as you can see, get the three wires unpinned from the connector. And I just cut a little bit of the coating off of each one of these wires so we can solder to them, and then slide a piece of heat shrink over the whole thing and heat shrink all the wires together. All right, just a little tip for you guys. When you're soldering wires, you want to put your soldering iron under the wire and hold it to the wire, and hold it there and let the wires get nice and hot. And then you start feeding your solder in from the top, and you get a really nice finished product like that. So that way you can ensure that this solder fully went through all the wires and all of them are fully connected, and you have no extra balls of solder hanging off or like pointy spots. So just a really good tip for you guys, and works every time for me. I have never had any issues with this. And then when we slide the heat shrink over it, it's, you know, the same size as the wire. It's not an ginormous amount of solder, so everything will go together a lot nicer. All right, so we got everything soldered up. It's all looking good. But before we heat shrink it, we're gonna make sure all the wires are separated, plug everything in, and test it before we put it all together. And, you know, if it winds up that I made a mistake, which I double checked everything, I'm sure I didn't, but it's always good to triple check and make sure you didn't do anything wrong when you soldered wires. All right, so with the switch in the DRL on position, you can see we got power to the LED chip. And then, hopefully you guys can see this, when I go to turn the headlights on, they turn off, it'll flash twice, and it won't come back on again. So that means everything's working. Even when I have the DRLs in 50% mode, the LED chip is still running at 100%, which is what I wanted. All right, we have success. DRLs are on, LED chips are on. Got all the wires ran, everything's tucked up pretty nice. I ran the connector wire all the way around into that cowl. Comes to this driver. Obviously these wires aren't run yet because they're not in the headlights. But tomorrow morning, I'm gonna open these up and we'll get these chips installed. All right, got the headlights out of the car. So the first thing we're gonna start with is taking these lenses off. Now what I like to do is take all the modules and covers off the headlight before I start messing with it. And since I've already redone these headlights, I used a Butyl headlight sealant, and then I can heat the lens up and pop it off. Lenses are off. So as you can see, this paint is like bubbling and cracking and all sorts of shit. So I don't know why it did that. I mean, I used the same paint for this and this, but this bubbled and this didn't. So I don't really know. First, we're gonna take everything out. We're gonna clean up the whole entire housing. And then we're gonna strip the paint off this and repaint everything. We'll get the Demon Eye installed. If you're watching this and you have an A6, I'm not gonna film taking apart the headlight and how to do it. I have 2 other videos that have pretty good demonstrations on that. One of them is called making custom Audi headlights, and one is called fixing the yellow DRL issue. And I'm also actually gonna be changing these DRL tubes as well. I got new ones because they're 40 bucks. And these weren't yellowing, but I have them apart anyways. I might as well put new ones in, can't hurt. So we got new lenses, new DRL tubes, gonna get some fresh paint, Demon Eyes, and these things are gonna look really nice. We got the whole headlight completely disassembled. Now it's time to figure out where and how we're gonna mount our LED chip. So obviously this is your projector and you want it to shine somewhere in here so the light comes out. What you do not want to do is put it like this. This is not gonna do what you want. And it'll make this bright, but when you go to turn your headlights on, it'll cast a shadow wherever this thing is blocking. So you want this outside of this housing here. You want it somewhere where it's gonna shine light in, kind of in this like whole housing, and it'll also bounce off this, but it won't cast any shadows. I went ahead and took the other headlight adjuster piece out, and I mounted mine up right here. Sits right on top, so it'll be out of the way of everything. You can see I put a slight little bend in it just to kick the light a little closer down. You gotta be super careful when you bend it. It's very thin aluminum, so you don't want to bend it too far. I just bent it a little bit. And just a little tip, make sure you clean your projector lens with something that's not going to leave dust. You don't want to get dust or any smudges on this because they will show through, especially with your LED light shining on it, because it's a very low, just ambient light. So you want to make sure that these stay super clean and you don't scratch them. LED chip is in, projector's all in. So now we got to run this wire. This wire for the LED projector I want to keep inside the headlight because there's no rubber seal on this connector. So I want this connection to stay in the headlight where it's going to be protected from any debris. and I want to run the other side of this connector into the headlight, but I need to find some way to do that and still have it be sealed. So I'll show you guys what I'm going to do. So now we got our power feed that has to go inside of our headlight. Now on the other end of this, it goes to a fully weatherproof box, and from there it goes to a connector that has a rubber seal in it. So I'm not worried about any of that stuff possibly getting water on it. But this one has to go inside the headlight. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna cut a slot in this rubber cover that goes on the back side of the headlight, feed that wire through it, and then silicone around the back and the front of it. And this will just sit on the wire, and when you have to take the headlight out, you'll just have to pop this off with it. But it's the best I can come up with. So we're gonna seal it right to probably this coating here. Now that the silicone's on, gonna let this top part dry, and in maybe like 30 minutes I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna do another coat of silicone on the inside just to make sure it's super sealed, not gonna have any issues with water getting in. So that got us the connector inside. So now we're gonna reassemble the headlights, and then we should be able to plug everything in. All right, got the headlight all put together, got our lenses, everything is cleaned. So now we can move on to putting the glue in. So using Dial Dynamics sealant again. I'm not sponsored by them, just like their stuff. So first thing you're gonna do is take your glue and you're gonna warm it up at 200 for 5 minutes in the oven. That way you can stretch it and like push it into this whole channel, and it's a lot easier to work with. Then while it's still soft, you're gonna stick the lens on there, set that in the oven for 10 minutes at 200 degrees, the whole entire thing with the lens. And once you take it out, that glue is gonna be even softer, and you can push that lens in, and then you're gonna clamp it all around the edges of the lens and let it cool for 30 minutes. Usually you can get away with 20, but what I go by is put the glue in it, put the lens on it, put it in the oven, and by the time you take it out and put the glue back in for the second headlight, take the glue out, put the headlight back in the oven, you're good to take the clamps off this and put it on the next one. So we're gonna get to that, and I'll show you guys what it looks like with the lenses on. Got the demon eyes all installed. A little hard to see in the daytime, but you can make them out. At sundown and nighttime, they really, really pop. They look awesome, but in the direct sunlight, they're a little harder to see. Camera doesn't do that good at picking them up. They're easier to see in person, but definitely worth it. There's a bit of work, but it's not, not too hard to the point where I would say it wasn't worth it. It was totally worth it for the way it looks. Looks absolutely amazing. So that's gonna be it for this one. I have another video posted on the heat exchanger I'm making. I'm doing kind of like a custom setup. So I'll definitely have some footage of that posted later this week. So stay tuned for that.